2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
Just doing my thing.
And this time, we're happy to be back doing our thing. Thanks for tuning in to the Voice of C38. I am Brendan Wyatt.
I'm Matt.
Yep, Matt's here.
Oh, and I'm Tammy.
Tammy's
A little
here.
late to the show.
And I'm the drunken monk.
And he's here too. No Brian this time. That dude's got to do some work. He's over in Grand Junction. He's close to the enemy. He's nearing enemy lines.
You know, he's such a negative impact. He just doesn't want to be here for the happy podcast.
Yeah, well, Tam felt like she was forced to. You know, she's 2-0 back on the cast after wins. And yeah, we got a little bit of a chat room going. So kudos to you guys for hanging out with us live, watching us probably make who knows what kind of mistakes. Although we haven't really edited a show in I don't know how long.
It's all this Wii stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but they don't have pre and post game stuff. That's the whole fun.
Well, yeah, we don't have any of that kind of production going on. It's more just podcast radio oriented. But anyway, pretty happy to be talking about a game coming up and the game last week. So let's just jump in, Tam, right into the starting 11.
All right, we'll start with Thursday. Chicago beat FC Dallas 2-1.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, anytime they lose is pretty nice. But what about Chicago? Does that scare you yet? Are you worried?
Oh, I'm so proud of little Chicago.
Yeah?
They're having such a great year. I'm just nothing but happy for them. I know they're going to destroy us eventually when we go there, but it's not like we're going to fall that far.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm thrilled for Chicago and their fans having a great year.
It's nice to see a team get theirs, I guess, when you have a bad season. But what happens when you have 3 bad seasons? Anyway, next.
Yeah, they're like our best frenemies. Like I said last year, they're our frenemies. They're in the same boat. They feel the same pain we do.
You never know.
I'm very happy for them.
Sometimes you beat the teams you expect to lose to.
It's typically how we roll.
Toronto beat 5-0 Columbus.
Thank God, Columbus. Take that. And they have a midweek game coming into Colorado.
Yeah, Columbus has got a rough stretch this week.
Good.
And,
let's get them mentally and physically weakened.
Can't complain about that one bit.
A few red cards would help us out too.
Yeah, considering
we're down to one Bobby Burling.
Yep. So we'll talk about that also later coming on.
All right, Saturday games. We got Seattle took Portland 1-0.
Cascadia Cup. It was a early goal, and then it was just nothing but back and forth.
And all the Twitter said this is going to be a high-scoring game. I saw that tweet so many times.
Yeah, they were right once again, weren't they?
Until it's a stalemate.
Till it was Rapids ball, then what will I have to say?
Vancouver lost to DC United. Or Vancouver.
Vancouver, there it is. Tammy talk.
All right,
John
right out. And I'm not even
Mellencouver.
drinking. That's the
Vancouver
sad
Mellencamp?
thing. Maybe it's just
Vancouver
leaked over from last night.
It's still hungover.
Yes, I am drinking water today. But yeah, they lost.
It's usually me with Cougars on the mind. It's good to pass that baton.
That's awesome. Oh, yeah. All right.
That's hilarious.
Okay.
All right, New York Red Bulls lost 2-1.
No, they won.
Or won. God dang it.
Now you're on a roll.
I know. I think I still have vodka in my system.
That would be okay. All right, so yeah, Red Bulls 2, New England 1. Yeah.
RSL beat Philly.
That's kind of shit.
Yeah, it's not great for us.
Yeah,
Sorry, I peeked ahead.
No, nothing wrong with that.
We did lose a lot of ground, RSL, and now Montreal's next to last, aren't they? But they had a bye week.
Yeah, and then
they
Orlando
didn't.
dropped another one.
Didn't have a bye week. They had a Canadian Cup.
Yeah, we skipped over that because who cares about Canadian?
All of my prep was on the Canadian Championship.
Oh, shit.
Shit, throw that out.
See what happens when I do the Pope Priest? Yeah, all right. Never mind then.
Yeah, a bunch of hosers.
Eh?
I had some more, Canadian trash talk ready.
Well, you can still drop it. Come on.
I didn't.
It's the McKenzie brothers. I always think of them. So, Minnesota won over Orlando. 1-0.
Anyone can win over Orlando right now.
right
didn't.
now.
Oh, okay. I was like, we
right
didn't.
now.
We sweated our asses off.
They're
too.
in their doldrums too.
Yeah, Orlando's kind of they got a strawberry on their ass right now. It's oh well, I don't pity them. I mean, we're having a worse time, so they'll get it right. And then next,
San Jose lost to LA Galaxy.
yay boo.
In the Cali Classico that apparently we all care so much about.
Mm.
There's Fox Soccer shoved it down your throat all
nobody
weekend.
cares at all.
Yeah, not according to MLS and Fox Soccer. I believe that was their highlight of rivalry week.
What are they going to do when they add the other LA team involved?
Oh, then they're going to make us care about the derby.
Yeah.
Just like they think we care about New York's derby. Like New Yorkers think we
New
care
York
about
has a
everything
derby?
they do.
We'll care about it like they care about our derby. So, yeah, that's what I have to say about that. How about them Sunday games?
Oh, you missed out Real Salt Lake.
No, yeah, well,
They won Philadelphia
Matt,
1-0.
Matt briefly mentioned
Oh, I'm
it,
sorry.
so-
I jumped ahead
He
on
jumped
that one.
ahead. Atlanta kicks some butt, 3-1 to NYCFC.
I watched that. They scare me, man.
Atlanta.
Yeah, they scare me a little. Like for a team that, I mean, you sit there and they give you the excuse of how guys need to play together, but these guys really haven't had a whole lot of time playing together, but they're pretty dangerous and they're young. So
They could be a flash in the pan, though. It could be one of those things where they're just on a good
maybe,
run of
yeah.
form.
We'll see what their sophomore year's like, but I mean, they're inconsistent, which is what you expect of an expansion team and a team that hasn't played together, but they can score. And when you're a team like us, and you see a team like that just score, and sometimes they lose big games, but
It's funny. It seems like they win. We always talk about them winning, but they're like 11 down in the Shield race.
yeah, see, it's not like
So the perception I had is that they're winning left and right, but they
No.
apparently are not. They're middle road.
yeah, but they can put balls in the net, and that's what kind of scares me. Is there's still room for them to grow, and they're dangerous now. I mean, they're not like Seattle was when they came into the league, and it's a whole different scenario. But we didn't take Minnesota seriously, partially because they were losing really bad, and they were the laughing stock of how to start a season.
And because we're stupid.
Yeah, and now we're paying the price.
It's
And
a
we don't
very-
like free
it
points.
should
we
be-
just hate free points.
It should be very serious not to be embarrassed or lose to the worst team MLS has ever seen.
And we're getting there.
We're stupid
How
enough
do you
not to
think
take
Kansas
that
City
serious.
feels?
And then there was one other game.
A no-scoring game.
Yeah.
FC Dallas.
What fun is
0-0 with Houston. I'm guessing it was boring,
It's
but I
another
didn't
one.
watch that one.
Dallas, they're on a tailspin too. They lost to Columbus.
Yeah, they just,
was it Columbus?
And they
or-
lost a back too to 4 to 6 weeks or something. MCL.
Oh,
Posted.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But they lost 2 weeks ago. They lost this week. They're down to, was it 1, 2, 3?
Basically,
4.
since they had the international,
They're down to 8th below the
the
Shield.
CONCACAF, bleh, they've gone backwards.
Houston, wow. Tied with Houston for 20 points.
Well, the thing about Houston is it's you look at the coach, and that was our assistant coach under Oscar, and they're very similar in styles. They know each other very well, and both of those teams. I'm not surprised with that scoreline, especially the way they play and the way they coach, and yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of stalemates when they play each other. That's going to be a frustrating battle anytime those guys go against each other. Too bad we don't really care.
Well, we care in so far as they're all both ahead of us.
Right. I mean, and if you got your anybody's, playing fantasy soccer, you got a few guys on those teams, I'm sure. So, but how we doing on time? Was that 11 minutes?
No,
or
that's only 8 minutes.
We breezed right through that in 8 minutes. See what happens when you don't have a
Any
Brian.
any questions or comments?
A couple. Dave asked where's Cerna and Axel and why they weren't in the 18.
Yeah, that Cerna thing puzzles me too because they just released another video featuring Dylan Cerna to the Rapids Facebook or app or whatever.
They think they're magicians, man. I'm not looking
Well,
because
I
there's
think
something else
the
going
PR
on.
team and the coaching team are on completely different planets at this
Mm-hmm.
point because they're PRing the shit out of Dylan Cerna.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's kind of like a tactic to try to focus some topics of conversation or where frustrations might be based on the team's performance. But Cerna's healthy and is ready to play, but there is definitely something going on.
What if your trade rumors were true, but they couldn't move on it because they put all this money and time into these videos?
Well, I wouldn't say it's because of the videos. I would say, if anything, it's because of the rehab.
No, the videos were about rehab
right.
coming back, and if they had traded him in the winter, then
they could
all of that would have been lost effort.
You could look at it saying, are they trying to soften a blow when they trade him in July?
Oh, no, I think they're just trying to get more bang for their buck by releasing the work they've already spent so much
saying
time
this
on.
is how good he is and ready to go.
No, just we've done this project on Cerna. You can't trade him away, or we can't run this project, this video series. So let us get that out first and then trade him later.
Oh, okay. There's probably a handful of different ways of kind of spinning that and why those got to come out. But
we're not really known for trading people at the right moment. We held on to Powers,
Sam Cronin and Mark Birch.
we held on to people like long after maybe you could have gotten a huge value in a trade out of them.
The thing is I also can remember when God dang it. The name is drawing a blank because it was a few years ago and it was under Oscar. We weren't playing the kid and Castrione. And it was because they didn't want to get rid of him and other teams were looking at him. And it was more of kind of, they held him back when certain scouts and certain people were here. So that way other teams really couldn't make an actual offer. It was thought that was part of why Dylan Powers wasn't getting some playing time a couple years ago when Palermo was looking at him right before he announced that he got his international or his Italy visa or whatever. So it was kind of, you wonder what kind of shady stuff gets done when, certain guys are being looked at by certain teams or how a team feels about it. But I think if you're not playing a guy, it is one of two things. One, someone's interested and they don't want him hurt, and you kind of do what you can and show fodder. Or it's the other way around, and you don't want him to seem more valuable than he is because you're not ready to get rid of him. And I think it's the first way around. I'm afraid that we should start preparing it, because I know that if I were a player in Dylan Cerna's position, I'd be asking my agent, can we find me somewhere that's going to give me some playing time? Because
he could get playing time somewhere.
At my age and with my skill, even if it's in this league, I got to be somewhere where a coach wants to play me. And if it's not that,
I would hope that the agent has already got his pocket full of names because he's on the U.S. squad. You
would think. I mean, you just
I don't know what better resume you need than, well, good enough for the country. So.
I'm scared because I feel like sometimes this club hasn't necessarily handled its homegrown players very well. I mean, ask Davey Armstrong. I mean, I think a lot of people forget that he was the original one.
Or O'Neill.
Shane O'Neill is the other one. And I was kind of doing a lot more thinking on that. And, the thing about Shane O'Neill was the club will never straight up tell you the reason he's gone is because he kind of burned his own bridge. And it was his family and they did things, and the coaches, and they did, like, it was wrong on both sides. Neither side was right. And unfortunately, it was just how things went bad. And it went bad for both the Rapids and for Shane. Shane had to go to 3 different clubs and experience a whole bunch of different crap. But he's freaking doing really good right now. Team of the week, 2 weeks in a row. His club's getting promoted. Should be. I mean, he's doing really good. So kudos to Shane. It took him a handful of years. But the Rapids, they didn't win when he wasn't playing. And they haven't really won much since. And it's not because, obviously Shane was scoring goals or was the reason for it, but he was definitely part of the defense and what made it solid. And he could have been that midfielder, that attacking midfielder, that number 10 that we felt like we've been missing. That's what he was in high school. That's what he wanted to do. Like, after practice, he and Dylan and some of the other guys would, take shots and shooting practice and do the things that they couldn't do in practice after practice, and stayed after way longer. This was also before the last collective bargaining agreement where they can't do that anymore. But they took it upon themselves to do that. It's a whole different mentality now than it used to be back then. But I used to watch those guys play, and you could see the talent. But you're looking down the line, and this is now going to be the third homegrown player. We really didn't let blossom the way they maybe should have. And it's kind of like, well, you hope that maybe with Courtney Ford, they've learned by the fourth time. I mean, Courtney Ford has almost gotten as much match time as a homegrown player as Shane did when he first came in. And maybe it's a positional thing because both were center backs. And you know, maybe that's what this club seems to really obviously focus on and lack at times. But, you know, rant over.
Well, it's just sort of annoying that they...
P.S. Watts or Axel did pick up a knock. He still wasn't, you know, but he should hopefully be good now that we have to sit Burling for a week.
Yeah, now that he can't not be there anymore.
Yeah, so... But anyway, as you were saying, Austin.
That'll teach Dave to ever ask about Cerna. That was 4 minutes right there.
I just get annoyed that how much like PR they put into homegrown players, and then we never see them. Like you always see them discussing them and talking about them, and the like PR around it is all about how we care about our homegrown and all that kind of stuff, and all these people coming up into our team, and then like you never see them, and all of a sudden it's always like a bad departure.
Man, I had good story ideas when both Shane and Dill were playing, and I wanted to sit each one down. I obviously wanted to do Shane in his parents' bar and do a video and an interview and kind of, get one-on-one with your homegrown, get to know your homegrown. And and Davey was still on the team too. I wanted to do it with all three of them, but I was shot down and told that one of the actual news stations had the same idea. Never once saw any one of those stories. So it's not like they're totally trying to pump their homegrowns. They won't necessarily go that far. They didn't back then, even when I was willing to do it with my little camera and just, C38 resources. Now, whether another TV station really had that idea and then they totally scrapped it because, they don't care about soccer, I could see that happening too. But then at least come back to me and say, hey, we've got this. Want to use it?
Yeah, but that's not how the real world works. You got to go back to them again and again and again and again.
This is true. So should we go into the post game?
Yeah. Well, I mean, do we want to talk about the game? I mean, there really isn't a whole lot to talk about. We scored and then we parked the bus for 55 minutes.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's
true.
I had a lot more opinions until I heard Pablo's rant, and now I'm like, whatever. Put your money where your mouth is. It's all talk. I don't know if you listened to the rant. They released it today,
yeah,
I guess.
the statistics versus
the heart, basically.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, he talks so big with one win.
Well,
I'd rather just see the action.
I watched his reaction, and when we got that win, and I kind of just thought to myself, your job's on the line, isn't it, buddy?
I just...
Like, you really... Like, this mattered to you more than I think it kind of did us, the fans. And as it should, but that kind of reaction was like, I won the fucking lotto, man! No, you won a game 1-0 that you had everyone in everyone in the stands freaked out because you parked the bus at halftime and did exactly what I'm afraid you do every time.
Yeah, we're watching Groundhog Day. It's the same movie over and over again.
And here we are afraid that at some point, somewhere between the 70th minute and the end of the game, we fall apart. And that 1-0 lead we had went to shit. Like, I mean, we were all taking bets at one point. Well, is this going to end in a tie or are we going to lose?
Well, thank God for Tim Howard. Again, that could have gone a very different way.
Right.
He had one or two short range blocks. Definitely
one for sure that I can remember going, save of the week. So, and I hate having to play that way. And
yeah, it's the white knuckle soccer. That's all we do. But another real world lesson I've always said is contracts don't mean shit to everyone who says, who's just on a 3-year contract? No, that only protects the club. That doesn't protect him from being fired. Look at any other club, and that's obvious. Contracts,
but you still got to pay part of his salary if you fire.
they would be willing to do that in some cases, but contracts do not protect
In
the
some cases,
contractee.
I think with our ownership, you really, really have to scrape the bottom of the dry pool before you end up getting picked up.
Unless you get
But
another offer you can't refuse.
I don't think, well, when you're having this kind of performance, that kind of offer is not going to come in.
Nope.
Yeah.
I mean, if he had gotten that kind of offer, it would have been at the end of last season, and it would have been smart of him to take it then, because then that would have been some other team's problem. But that's not how it was seen.
I'm saying the Rapids would get an offer they can't refuse. But
Oh.
yeah, no, I'm just trying to say that just because he signed a new contract does not mean his job is safe for 3 years.
Yeah,
All kinds of manners of legal bullshit go on.
this is true.
I work with contracted people, and they have zero protections. They can still, with all their contracts, they can get fired with no reason
Pretty much.
and be prevented from working in the same market
yeah,
for a certain amount of time.
Yeah. Lawyers are good at writing up contracts.
Lawyers are very good at that.
Right, Mr. D. Okay. So,
So yeah, it could be that his job's on the line.
I mean, any other
But he needs
game-related
to-
thoughts? I mean,
I think we'll have more discussion once we hear from people, right?
all right. Well, yeah. Then, since we're talking about it, let's hear from Timmy as he gives his thoughts on Courtney and Marlon.
Young kid, and he's going to. I played alongside a lot of very strong, young, athletic defenders, and what they're best at when they're young is using their athleticism to close down space and gaps. And if they make mistakes, which they're going to do because they're young, they have the ability to recover because of that athleticism. So, unfortunately, you have to play 50 games, 75 games before you start kind of learning the nuances of it. But until then, you learn on the fly and you use your tools that you have, and Courtney's using those tools. Getting on the end of set pieces, obviously being strong and getting his hands on people in the box and making tackles when he needs to make tackles and big, long, lunging strides. And it's fun to watch him grow.
Tim, I noticed you had a lot of conversation and direction and things with Marlon throughout the game. Anything you can talk about and just things you guys were directing or moving towards?
Well, yeah. So they're so tough. They flood the attacking third with like 6 players.
Yeah.
They gamble. And their gamble pays off because they're well coached by Peter Vermes, and they execute the game plan to perfection. And it's nearly impossible to stop, so you have to defend with a lot of numbers. Which, sometimes your midfielders don't want to be in the back line and all that. So we were trying to figure, they were doing it on the left and doing it on the right, so we're just trying to figure out one side and then sort out the other. And so just kind of communicating with Marlon and making sure that he stayed on Gashi, and Gashi did a brilliant job for us tonight, tracking back. He ended up being in the back line a bunch, which we talked a week. It sucks. I'm sorry to say it like that, but your midfield is going to have to end up, when you play Kansas City, in the back line, almost as a back five. It looks horrendous. It feels horrendous for our midfielders, but there's no other way to defend them, because when you watched our game with Kansas City 6 weeks ago, we didn't do that, and it tore us apart because there's too many gaps. So that was just what we were trying to communicate the whole game.
Nice, good stuff. Thank you.
Bobby Burling.
So, I get it. It just kind of hit me after listening to Tim talk. Now I know why Pablo has done so well against Peter Vermes. He knows how to defend that attack. Simple. He knows how to defend the way that's the Pablo's thing. And the one thing that frustrated me at halftime was, when Ali asked Pablo, the halftime question, the first word out of his mouth was defensively this. And he just went off about the things that we could do defensively. And I knew instantly, oh crap. But not even the fact that we scored a goal, we're up 1-0. It's how we have to be defensively. The mindset is almost 98% defensive, 2% attack. And that, as Tim said, sucks for guys like Gashi and Doyle and some of these other attacking players. And yeah, it's going to be hard to figure out how to find the right mentality for this team.
Well, we just don't have, against a team like that, enough offensive threats to go toe-to-toe. Like Tim said, it's a gamble on what they're doing. And against a team like us, it's like we just have to play defense. We don't have the ability to score goals the same. They proved it last time they played us.
They know they can leave their defense
the
a little.
ability to have a shootout with them. They are going to kill us in the shootout. But if you sit back and you force them to get through 8 players, 9 players, 10 players, they have difficulty scoring. And so against a team maybe more like LA, that's more offensive minded, and you see them put up 6 goals in a game between the two teams and have a real shootout. That's just not who we are. That's not what we have.
Which was kind of what I was getting at. But yeah. So then the next bit of audio we have is what Brian got from Bobby. So all I know is there's a whole lot of shit going on in the background.
Yeah, we're going to make explicit with just the intro to this.
I went past the intro.
Okay.
So,
okay.
yeah.
We may end some journalistic careers with the intro to this.
Yeah. And to skip
Talking
ahead.
about what shots they've been doing.
Or at least what it tasted like, I think.
I think if you look back at some of our performances last year, a lot of them were 1-0.
Yeah.
1-0 wins. And at home, obviously, it's nice to get a second goal, but at the same time, we feel like if we can wear opponents down and frustrate them, whether we're, making it hard on them to play and putting the ball at players' feet who don't really want the ball as much.
Yeah, true.
And I think, that kind of frustrated them. And a lot of balls went out for goal kicks. And obviously, we got one of the best goalies, in my opinion, in the world still. So for him to take shots from deep, I think they're obviously taking a lot of shots tonight from deep. And I think maybe a couple tested Tim at some point. But, it's one of those things where nothing's come easy for us this year. And I think just getting like a signature win, if you will, although it was ugly, we'll all be the first to say it was an ugly win. But at the same time, just kind of back to basics and back to what we're good at, and and grinding and fighting and just putting on a performance at home where we feel like we should be able to win. And I think they're not all going to look like that, obviously, but at the same time, to get one like that's kind of nice to bring us back to really digging in and bunkering in and fighting for each other, and everybody's got everybody's back. The guys off the bench did a great job. Mike DeFont came in at halftime. Mikkel came in. Josh Gatt came in, brought some energy. So it took a lot of everybody tonight, and I think that's a testament to the coaching staff, have everybody ready.
Do you think it's going to be? Was that a good reminder of, hey, look, guys, this is our MO. Let's not try and be somebody we ain't.
Yeah, I think so. I think obviously this team's different than last year's team. But at the same time, who are we as an identity? I think that is us. And we're going to win some games 3-0 like last time we were at home. But at the same time, it does feel good to get one of those ugly grind out wins. And Kansas City's a good possession team. Look, they got a good midfield, and they popped the ball around very nicely, and I think it's hard to get close to some of those guys. They got a good midfield, and at the same time, we frustrated them tonight. At their place is obviously a different game, but at the same time, we wanted revenge tonight.
So,
well, revenge. We wanted to win. That wasn't revenge. We grinded it out, like you said. And it feels good when the alternative is a loss.
You can add revenge to that after you win, as kind of like the cherry on the cake, or
I don't think
flavor to the icing, kind of, so to speak. But no, I wouldn't necessarily.
I don't think revenge came up in the pep talk
that
beforehand. It's like grind.
Yeah, I wouldn't think that either. So I definitely, I think I'm listening to this, and this is obviously 2 interviews in a row, plus the one I just kind of didn't really want to get to about Pablo talking about defense immediately right at halftime. Defense. And I think that in order for us to maybe slowly accept this team and the mentality.
The team has, you heard it.
What
we're good at,
they just
grinding
need
away.
To stop
we're
feeding
good at
us full of bullshit.
We're good
Feed
at
us more full of this.
Yeah, we're good at frustrating them, not capitalizing on their frustration.
Because the other frustrating thing is using, I don't know if I could ever go through a podcast without using my parents, but the one thing that they're still stuck on is back before Pablo, even before Oscar. When we fired Smith, it was right after we won the cup. And so the only thing they could sit there and do is say, we're going to go to a more attacking, more aggressive style type of soccer. That was the only thing they could tell us after winning the cup that would justify firing your coach. We've never gotten that except for a brief small taste when Oscar was here. but he wasn't here long enough. And as soon as that started showing itself, he was gone. And then we got the exact opposite. And no one came out and said, oh, by the way, yeah, you're going to get the exact opposite. This is the kind of style of coach Pablo is. Now, last year, Pareg told us a handful of times, oh, yeah, nobody can coach defense better than Pablo. We all know Pablo is a great defensive coach. Saying that's one thing, but to come out and say, this is what we're going to get as a type of style of soccer, no one has said that. We're saying it because they're not, but this is what it really is. It's white knuckle soccer. It's defense. It's get a point, but 0-0 if you can. Try not to lose. Like, it really isn't the attacking soccer that some people, like my parents, are still thinking that that's what they should be getting because they fired a coach 7 years ago when they probably shouldn't have because they didn't want to give up the control. So, you know, they've dug themselves a bit of a hole. And I think a lot of acceptance
realize that
that
it's not this first of all, soccer isn't a American sport, which in general has to do with scoring lots of goals and really flashy plays and that kind of thing.
Well, that's the Americans in us.
They've got to realize that having a defensive minded team is perfectly fine as long as your defense is good. And even with our terrible start, we're still like the 6th best defense in the league. And that's with what is considered a very terrible start. We just aren't getting the draws we were getting last year or the extra maybe 1-0 wins that we were getting last year. Like, we're not getting those extra points we kind of eked out last year. This year, it's going the opposite direction. So it seems like every single time that's a close game, we give it up and we give up a goal or we give up 2 goals. And we take losses instead of draws and draws instead of wins. And that's the difference you're seeing in the standings right now. But the defense is still solid, and it's an okay mindset to play defensive soccer. Is perfectly fine and very good. That's how Gary Smith won a cup.
Yeah.
Was technically defensive soccer.
Right.
Now, granted, he had 2 great strikers.
There you go.
But in truth,
look at how much goal production came out of that team, despite the fact it was defensive soccer. What people forget is Gary Smith, yes, it was defensive, but it was also offensive. Gary Smith managed the game. We won that cup because he managed the game and the team caught fire at the right time. He utilized the players at the best that he could. Casey and Omar were one of the best striking duos that this league has really ever seen. They just didn't come with the names like Bradley Wright Phillips and whatnot, like and Donovan and Beckham. But they never got the love. But look at the production that they had together. We haven't seen anything like that since. And I think that's the one thing that Pablo's forgetting is that while we won that cup under Gary Smith, and yes, it was a defensive type of mentality, and I'm sure there's a lot of what happened during 2010 that Pablo is really still trying to instill in this team, but that attacking bit still missing. And it's not so much the players, because you can't tell me we don't have guys with that talent or ability on that roster. I mean, we do. So
but there is we've talked about it for seasons now about the disconnect between the midfield and our strike. Like, there just for some reason is no real distribution to that striking core, which was there when Gary Smith was playing. Now, Gary Smith played a little bit more English style from
4-4-2 as well.
Back over the top instead of through the midfield.
Right, and it was also a different formation.
Yeah.
Which is now something we're starting to run.
He's now playing a 4-4-2.
Right. We're using that now, so maybe, give it some time, a few more wins, a little bit more confidence, some goals. Maybe we'll have a little bit more to talk about. But, it's kind of funny that we're still kind of nitpicking after a 1-0 win.
I was going to say, people are going to think they're listening to an old episode from last year.
We did win. But I'm just not going to be
still in last.
I'm not going to punch the ground. I'm so happy.
Well,
So-
like the previous win, take it with a grain of salt.
Well, yeah, it's when you've dug yourself this far of a hole this early in the season, these kind of wins mean something, but it's not like celebratory each time. So it's more kind of like, and like you said, put your money where the mouth is. Show me.
Money talks and bullshit walks.
Yep. So, that ended. Looking forward, we got C-Bus in town this week. And
like we said, they're hurting mentally and physically.
We've dropped a few C-Bus mentions here and there throughout the season, and it's because we've seen they've had potential but haven't really been able to harness it, kind of like our guys. But it's been rough for them a little bit this last week. So I'm kind of one of those ones where if you have an opportunity to take advantage of a team struggling and you can do it, do it. So it would be really great.
With a midweek game.
Yeah, it would be really great if we could make sure that, again, we, starting to call this a fortress again, let's make sure that we do so and, win. I don't care if it's a shutout or not, but win. I think that it would help these guys score more goals if they're having to score more goals to win. Having to score one goal to win is part of the problem why we didn't win in the beginning of the season. It's because, we can do it with just one. We can do it with just one. And then they score one or two and we still haven't scored that one and heads are down. So when these guys can start scoring two and feel like that's what they got to do, it's a mind game. That's the mind game with this game we love so much.
If you're going to play to draw, the Shield leaders, Toronto, they got 29 points already. If you're playing for that 34 points, you're going to lose every single year. There's no logic to that plan, that strategy at all.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, the mindset needs to be we're going to fight for this place, not supporter shield, get into the playoffs, make a run for the playoffs, show us that you're competitive, give us some games that are worth watching, not ones that we're afraid you're going to lose. There's a different kind of way that, you could start the season without having to set expectations too high. Because how much frustration would C38 have as a group? Austin fell out of his chair.
Broadcaster down.
Yeah, something just fell.
But, if the expectations weren't set so high, maybe by, saying, oh, yeah, we're going to make it to the Cup this year. We made it this far. We're going to do it this year. And then you start the season the way you did and you say nothing about anything. And people have a right to start voicing their opinions, whether they're just fans in your eyes or not. People have a right. Opinions are opinions.
If you look at us and because our home record isn't great, but it's not terrible either. So if we'd actually done even half of the points we have at home away, we would be pushing lower middle of the pack instead of bottom of the table. We're terrible on the road this season. Absolutely terrible at it.
Pretty much the opposite as we were last season. But that's easy to say because we haven't won yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
we haven't got a lot of points at home either.
We're the Portland of this year. Back to Columbus. I don't know. Seattle's 4-5-4, and Columbus is 6-7-1. They're at home midweek, so I don't really know how that game would go. I think they have a chance to win it, which would exhaust them.
Really? Against Seattle?
Yes.
But
they have a chance to lose it as well.
I
I can't call that game. That's two mediocre teams.
Let's just hope Seattle just runs them into the
ground. I was just going to say, I look at this.
Tire them out. I don't care the score.
Yeah, the result, I think, at this point for us is, yeah, you're right. We hope that they just run them tired. Mm-hmm. And it's something where, yeah, maybe there's a yard sale of a roster change and we get guys who are semi-fresh but are very rusty.
Mm-hmm.
And
whereas we can actually have most of our starting
and
Nine out of 11 of
hopefully
them.
we could also maybe use a little bit of the altitude to our advantage. Who knows? I mean, Greg Berhalter is he's a different cat, man. Who knows what he's going to do? But yeah, I guess we could sit there and watch this game tonight and make our assessments after the podcast is dropped. But yeah, looking ahead.
But even then, the midweek game isn't going to tell me a lot about Saturday. I still am not in that comfortable place where I can.
You're never going to be in that comfortable place. You're a Rapids fan.
God damn
well,
it.
and the other part of it is they're at home too, so it's not like they're on the road. It's a long road trip, kind of like what the Rapids just went through, going to Chicago and then to Philly. So
that's why I'm really banking on that mental state, that 5-0 loss.
yeah, and that's gonna rebound them enough to want to fight. So if they put all their effort and
Now you
energy
sound like
into
Pablo.
right, I gotta help with that mentality.
That's exactly
part
what
of it.
Pablo said about Minneapolis. They're going to come here wanting to play for pride. Well, maybe they're just going to come here as whipped little puppies. And maybe that's what we should hope for.
And pee all over your carpet. That is Dick's Sporting Goods Park.
So
The place where you're not allowed to say the
Burling,
word dick without getting ejected.
What?
Since we did hear from Bobby Burling earlier, with his suspension, who do you think stepping up?
Well, I would think it would be Axel. But if Axel's not fully right, Jared Watts should be good to go. I mean, the only thing really slowing him down or slowed him down last week was that his calf wasn't 100%. And, even though Courtney Ford is having a heck of a run right now or had a really good game, I wouldn't sit there and rule him out for Saturday. I think that Pablo typically keeps guys in the lineup if they're in form and can play. So I would kind of almost think we might see an Axel-Courtney pairing, but don't be too shocked if it's Axel and Jared. It's Axel and somebody.
It's Axel and something.
But not Williams. You don't think that?
No, I don't think. I mean, I feel like Williams got playing minutes last week partially because I think Eric Miller was scaring Pablo. I think that Miller was not necessarily. He wasn't playing like Eric Miller, and they were working him pretty hard. But I also remember Pablo kind of like giving a gesture to his head with his fingers pointing to his temples, like, "Hey, think out there, be smart." And we all know that's something that Williams can struggle with at times. So I don't think Pablo really wanted to put Williams out there. That's why I think DeFont came in at halftime. Williams came in mostly because Marley was just done at the end of the game,
He got beat up a little bit.
Yeah, he had a heck of a game. So I wouldn't rely or think much of Williams. I think Williams is an emergency replacement at this point.
Like last year's status again.
Yeah, I do. And I think that that's kind of one of those things where I feel like the club is probably going to ride the wave of his contract until he's done. We also can't forget Dennis Castillo has shown some promise.
Is he still North Carolina?
Yeah, he's still in Charlotte. And, we could give him a jingle if we really needed to.
No, I thought, was it Maxwell that posted that we can't bring him back because of international spots?
Oh, I didn't even think of that. Thank you, Mr. Maxwell. If that's the case, yeah, then that kind of changes something. So, yeah. Oops.
Could throw Cerna back there.
Could, but Pablo ain't going to play Cerna. I don't think Pablo would play him if his job depended on it.
Wow.
That's almost
really
where I'm at this
Strong
point.
statement.
That's really about where I'm at. Like,
well, yeah, we haven't.
Tell
seen
me
anything.
something otherwise, because
he's healthy.
Yeah,
That's it.
and you can see it in his face. Dude is starting to Yeah.
And it can't be the work thing because he put on like 15 pounds of muscle in his
No, he
rebuilding period.
really wants to be playing.
That guy works hard.
So there's...
Well, he crushed it last season.
Yeah, no, there's a reason he's not
then
playing.
He crushed the
and
rehab,
it's
too.
above his head. There's a reason he's not playing, and it's above his head. Whether it's because another team's involved or because...
Could it be a straight Moneyball deal? He's valuable and they know it, and they need cash.
Yeah. At this point...
Nothing against the kid or his abilities. It's just a money deal.
At this point, I wouldn't rule anything past what we don't know or will never know, because that's what it is at this point. It's not injury related. It's not form related. It's not because he doesn't fit. No. There are things that we won't know, and we can only speculate, and there's more percentage to that than there is the other stuff. So, yeah.
Something just happened. Oh, it got a lot less noisy for some reason. Oh, there we go. I've always suspected that the U.S. puts a lot of pressure on club teams as well to keep people healthy for certain reasons. I mean, that's always in the back of my mind, too. You can't play this guy because I need him in July. That kind of thing. I can't risk him being hurt. I need him later.
Yeah, but Cerna doesn't have that role anymore. And that's because in part
now we
he
have
hasn't been playing.
But now we have Arena in the U.S. team, and we don't. He hasn't done a lot yet.
And I don't think Arena's going to give him much look because he's not being given one. That's how Bruce Arena works. Shane O'Neill has a better chance of getting called up at this point. And it's because of his style of play and his level of play and consistency of play. And that's how Bruce Arena looks at things, not because you've been sitting the bench for this club for 2 years.
Well, and I think
what
the
I'm
role that
accusing...
Cerna plays now is a little bit different. When you're fighting for a back position, left back or right back, I don't think the national team is as strong at those positions as, say, moving forward. So since he's been playing more of a midfield role or a striker role, I think his competition's a lot higher, which makes it a little bit more difficult.
That doesn't look at this squad. For the U.S. squad, yeah, but for the Rapids, no. So, anyway,
46 minutes in. Do we have any more comments or anything we can talk about?
Any questions from chat?
What's anybody in chat think about Saturday?
We got to give them about 2 minutes to respond because of the delay.
So we'll get some scores from them. So what do you think is important for this game, Brendan?
Well, 3 points. Fluidity. Something that I saw at practice that kind of frustrated me was that there was no fluidity. And this was last week, and it obviously didn't matter too much because they still won the game. But almost every time something good started happening, Pops blew the whistle, stopped it, and started giving instructions about what to do and where to be and how to, things had to be so perfect that I felt like I was seeing it in the guys' faces where there was almost that try too hard mentality of trying so hard to make sure it was perfect. And then just as soon as you think they got it, bam, he'd switch up a handful of guys. That's not helping when it comes to getting to know how certain guys play and certain guys do things. And usually it's the back six would stay and then the front four or front two would, change. So that's, again, part of that disconnect. I felt like is what we've talked about with this team is that there hasn't been a whole lot of continuous motion from Tim Howard to Kevin Doyle. There's a whole lot of stopping involved. And I think in order for this team to start winning games and start finding that momentum, that needs to happen in the 90 minutes. Not just, it's definitely not happening on the training pitch, so it definitely needs to happen in game. There needs to be continuous fluidity, and with where their motion is where the momentum's going to be. And whoever comes into this game with momentum and fluidity, like passing to each other and the balls and the touches, like smooth soccer, whichever one is smoother is going to end up with the points, and hopefully it's us. And I think that's kind of the key to this game. And I think it's pretty much the key to this homestand is just keeping the ball off of their feet, which is something I'm afraid of.
But that doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
Possession does not matter.
He said that multiple times,
that.
and I called it up in the box because at halftime they were sitting there saying, this is ridiculous. Kansas City has had this much possession. I said, I guarantee after the game, Pablo will talk about how possession didn't mean shit. Because this is one of those
last season.
Right, because he says it
we were a
after
team
every
that was
one of
possession.
he does it after every one of these games where teams sit there and get frustrated because they've had 60 to 70% of the possession and couldn't finish. But what does that say about us when we go in and teams beat us at our own game? We kind of roll around on the floor and cry about it. And it just, there needs to be a happy medium in between. And that's,
look at us. What was it? 2 years ago, and a little bit into last year, we had 60 to 80% of the possession and weren't winning.
Yeah.
So, possession is one stat, just like shots on goal is one stat versus regular shots versus scoreboard in general. How many goals you let it? There's a lot of stats you can base off of that you can look at, and no matter what team you look at, you can find negative stats to complain about.
Right. Even the best you can nitpick and rip apart, but a win's
a win.
Yeah.
3 points is 3 points. Whether they had the ball forever and had a million shots, if they didn't put one in, we did our job, right?
I got Pablo queued up if you want him to just play what he said, just in case people haven't heard it yet.
That'd be good.
All right. It's buffering, so bear with me.
The pundits and the people that like to comment on the game will look at possession and we'll look at shots and we'll look at all kinds of other metrics that have very little to do with heart and courage and commitment for one another. And I think that's what we haven't had this year. We've had some pretty football games, and you know what? We've lost those. Because it goes back to saying it's okay to be who we are. It's okay that we don't have 150 passes in 30 minutes. It's okay if we don't have 150 shots on goal. This game is about winning. It's about thinking the game. It's about consciously not allowing teams to break you down inside your area, and more importantly, finding that moment to score a goal. That's what this game's about. People have lost the plot with all this passing and shooting percentages, and if you shoot from here and you'll score if you do it 12 times. Well, I'm tell you what, the stats were wrong tonight. The stats are wrong tonight. And stats will lose to the human spirit every day of the week. Thank you very much.
That was his mic
Was
drop.
that the dry? I was just
That was
going to
his-
say that.
Yeah.
That was his mic drop moment.
Yeah.
He's
He
wrong.
changes his.
He's wrong.
Let him have his moment.
He's so wrong.
But
They win.
that
Hart,
every
Hart
day of
does
the week.
not win every day of the week. That's why we have things like the Bad News Bears in the movie Major League.
That's awesome.
Hart doesn't always win. Statistics
Well, and-
do matter. That's why pundits talk about.
Well, look at Major League, really. I mean, you and I love that movie, but how far did they go? They went as far as the
We
Rapids
don't
went
know.
last year.
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah,
the
we
movie
do.
ended before they got to the final.
Well, that movie, but they talk about how they lost to whoever it was in the series.
I didn't
So
watch Major League 2.
they lost. But the reason they didn't go any further is because a team in that situation realistically isn't going to beat a team who has more talent, who's better coached, more fit. Heart and spirit will win you some games. It'll give you a 2016 type season.
Or
but
it'll
to
put
sit
you,
there,
or it'll put you in 2017
Or a
season.
2010s
Right.
type system.
right?
season.
Well, it'll give you maybe a
It's-
2010 type of run in
It's
the
a
playoffs.
crapshoot
but
either way.
to say maybe that's what this team lacked at the beginning of this season, he may be right a little bit there. There's definitely there's some of that fighting spirit, that keep fighting mentality that we helped them have last year that didn't seem to surface at the beginning of this year, and maybe that's in part to some of the losses, but to sit there and say that their heart and their spirit will win them games every day of the week, that's stretching it a little bit.
It also
but-
puts the blame on the players every time they lose tacitly.
right.
Oh, well, you didn't have enough heart. You didn't want enough.
Yeah, but, I'd love to see what happens if someone had the balls to call out this speech when Hart and everything doesn't get you that, and the stats, go back into the.
Well, he did pause for a moment and then got up and left. There was a chance for someone to say something. But
Well, that's an intimidating moment. I mean, I would have loved to have been down there, but it was
I
another one of
think-
those daddy duty games where
yeah, but a speech like that too.
I can't. I wouldn't have said anything.
No, you're trying to process it because what you're hearing.
No,
is,
no, he needs to say that. I completely disagree. Now, I don't disagree with the factor that having a consistent team is important, but I think having a coach saying stuff like that publicly with a team that just won a grinding game can help that team maybe gain some momentum off of that. So maybe the speech wasn't for the fan base. Maybe that speech was for the players because they're going to see him just basically, he just tore into the media.
He addressed the pundits
For them.
specifically.
Which
For
would
them,
be
he
more
straight up
us.
just tore
That's
into
us,
it.
yeah.
So that could be good for the team because they've been getting a lot of negative publicity, and for him to just basically go straight at us, maybe that's what they need.
Hey, man, you lose games, you get bad publicity. Any sport and any coach will tell you that. That's something you got to deal with as coach. And if you can't deal with it, don't be a coach.
Be happy you don't have a job in LA or New York or Seattle where no matter if you're doing really, really good, you're still going to get negatively seen just because that's how sometimes some people roll.
Mm-hmm.
We try to be positive as much as we can. I think that we're a bit more of homers compared to some of the other places, definitely in the past. We're fair and we're critical and we try to point out the facts and the stats, despite the fact that those don't always tell the truth to some people. Alternative facts are becoming a bigger thing, and that's just,
I wasn't going to compare anything to Trump, but that speech is what convinced me that he's just going to believe what he wants to believe, and there's no talking to a person like that. So that's where I said, let me see it.
Yeah.
Show me week after week that you're right. Otherwise, it's all just talk.
And always have that attitude because when was it a while ago and he said we're focusing on the year next year.
That was
So,
to
like, he
another.
changed
Yeah, that was a
his
blunder.
voice to the games too, so he's not consistent of what he's gonna.
That was a terrible blunder.
That blunder definitely has him thinking probably
Well, that helps
twice
some of the
to three
negativity
times
of the
more
media
about
for
what
him.
he says.
I think he got in trouble for that by the club.
Yeah,
on
I'm
the
sure.
club level.
I would be surprised if he didn't.
And he's lucky to live in a city that doesn't scrutinize him like a Seattle and a Portland and a New York would in the media, in the mainstream.
Well, I don't know. It's not him that's lucky.
Yeah,
it's
but he'd
it's
also
someone
end up with
else
a team
even
that had
further
more
up
players.
because we look at how we're being treated
and
for our
Silent
open
Stan
letter,
is busy in England.
So yeah. But
Like if you look at a Seattle team or an LA team where he scrutinized a little bit more, they're also putting in millions of dollars more into that team than we are.
Well, I'm just talking about a team that gets coverage on the nightly news in a city that that covers.
That's why
Yeah.
Tim Howard was just on the
news. They spend
Really?
millions of
For the
dollars
U.S.
more
men's
on
team?
yeah, but
Yeah.
she called him Colorado's own, and I'm like,
It was
Why did she
interesting.
call him that?
I don't know. I kind of wanted to be like, well, who's it going to be? Because there's only a few of them, and I know none of them are in camp with, And then I said, I bet they'll do Tim Howard, and then
Sure
He's
shit.
like, I'm like, he's not Colorado's own, but
Well, yeah, it's one
Yeah.
of those semantic things.
yeah.
But at least they had rapids in the background.
Yep, and talked about the weather for the day. So
Yeah.
they're slowly getting there. But yeah, I can imagine that it would be rougher for some of those guys, and Ziggy Schmidt would tell you about it. But speaking of that, he coached Columbus, and that was the team we were supposed to be talking about as we were exiting this podcast.
Yeah, we kind
But,
of already.
Yeah, it's back to the regular 7:00 kickoff, so that means our tailgate will be 4:00. Do we have anything going on?
At the tailgate?
Yep. Anything special?
Outside of, I think it's just our normal tailgate. There's not going to be 500 away fans there, which might be a little nice.
I would be shocked if we had a handful of away fans from Columbus.
Well, also the Kansas City fans were great out here, so
They were super nice and super chill.
they were.
But I hate it when we look like we're the
We're the visitors. Yeah, it's for the first hour and a half. It looked exactly like that, and then it kind of got evened out.
Yeah,
it's never
'cause
fun
they're
to.
there, so
RSL has done that to us a couple times where they've brought in an army and you can almost hear them louder than us. And that's why I'm glad that C38 is no longer in the North stands, despite the fact that some people thought that was the best thing in the world for them. Those are some of those people that never really heard what it was like outside of the North stands. So now that we're in the stadium, we're louder, and it does make a difference. And, I like it. It's good. And we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I definitely think that this game this week, we kind of it's our game to lose. I mean, Columbus is going to come in here and they're going to try and do everything they can, whether it's a yard sale of a roster compared to earlier in the week or not. Some guys are going to have rubber legs. Some guys are going to have fresh legs. It's probably going to be a little chaotic for Columbus, but that doesn't matter. Our guys need to have the right mindset.
Well, our guys just need to have the proper spirit and the proper heart.
Yep.
Go into this game, win it.
Yes. And fluid, continual soccer.
Don't worry about possession. Just kick that ball away as fast as you can.
Ass and elbows. Ass and
Kick
elbows.
it with your spirit.
All right. See you guys at the tailgate.
Yeah, you lock your keys in the car on the strip. Or your rubber when you hit it, but it rip. Head on collision the moment before you hit. You hit the big six like you rich, bitch.